I'm not going to do your prompt. I'm going to tell you that I, too, used to work at the Olive Garden. And I can confirm that people do eat too many breadsticks. Also, I saw you when you were in Milwaukee, technically Brookfield. So don't feel like you've been to Milwaukee. If you've been to Brookfield, like, please come back to our city. We'd love to have you. Anyways, thank you so much for making me laugh. Like, I'm just going through a rough patch when I saw you, and you made me laugh so hard I cried. So thank you. Please keep doing everything you're doing. Keep making me laugh on social media and keep making your awesome comedy. You're doing great.
It's the Call Kevin podcast. It's the podcast of Eugene. It's the Call Kevin podcast. All asking things. Podcast Kevin with Call Kevin.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Call Kevin. I'm coming to you from my hotel room in Portland, Oregon. I'm looking out the window. My view is lovely. Actually, okay. I just put my glasses on because it's very bright and my glasses have a tinting effect. But I just looked up into the camera and it looks like I'm wearing sunglasses. And I'm not that guy. So I'll just have bright light in my eyes. Do you know yourself? Is there a moment in your life where you can look back and say, yeah, that's when I think I could say I know myself in my life? That's what we're talking about on today's episode. And several people called in and answered the week prior's prompt. So we're going to mix it up a little bit. It'll be a mix of last week's point and this week's, but it all kind of works together, I think. Before we get started, tonight I'm in Portland, Oregon. It's sold out, though. Wednesday night, I'm in Eugene, Oregon. That's sold out, too. And Thursday night, I'm in Tacoma, Washington. And you guys, that is also sold out. But the week after that, I'm in Oxnard, California, Ontario, California, Irvine, and San Jose. And all of those shows have tickets available if you live in Southern California or in the San Jose area. Come see my show. I'm on a limited time crunch right now. I have to leave for the club in like an hour and a half, so I don't have time for mistakes. I hope I don't make any, but I probably will. Let's dive into our messages for this week.
Hi, Kevin. I just finished listening to your latest podcast. It was amazing as usual. I found it super interesting because I am looking at who my true self is now, finally, after 49 and a half years. I'll be 50 at the end of this year. And there's something about turning 50 that really made me take a good look at what I wanted and what I truly want to do and how I want to live my life. And it came about just through happenstance. I fell into a job that I never expected I would get. And I felt so passionate about the work that I was doing. It was short term. And right now I'm looking for a way to make that my full-time career. But the way I found it was through just by chance. The universe just lined it up for me, and I worked in wellness. And that's what I want to do for the rest of my career. But I'm just not sure how to do it yet. But I do have that dream, and that feels amazing. And part of it came about by just moving cities, number one. And number two, leaving a job of 21 years. And number three, taking a chance at a short-term contract. And number four, believing in myself. And finally knowing who I am. And I did that by just going back to who I was when I was a kid and remembering, just how awesome I was. And your podcast was a big part of it, and just listening to music that healed me. And I came to myself. And it was a bit painful, that's for sure. But it's rewarding because now I know my truth and I know what I want to do. And thank you for having this platform for all of us to enjoy and feel inspired by.
Have you seen those things those things on the internet, memes, I guess, that people post of like the Golden Girls or different people in sitcoms in the 70s and 80s. Cheers was another one, and how old the characters were supposed to be. And they're all like on the Golden Girls, I think one of them was supposed to be like 45. And the oldest one, like Sophia, was like, she's 54. Do you know what I'm talking about? And another one was Cheers. Like all those characters were supposed to be in their 30s, and they all seem and look much older than a 50-year-old does today. It seems like it. You know what I'm talking about? I've noticed that I have a pretty wide range of listeners on this show. A lot of people in the same age group as me, some people a decade or two older, and a lot of young people as well. And I think it's drawing people. We're all sort of like coalescing around a subject, which I think is coming into clarity. It's like, what is life about? What are we doing here? What are we doing, you guys? But I've noticed that people who are 50, like myself, I turned 52 in November, we're like a different breed of 50-year-old than I think that didn't exist even 20 years ago. One, like the life expectancy is increasing, but also a lot of us we don't have kids. We're Generation X, which I think is a different kind of flavor. A lot of us are asking, okay, what's next? As opposed to maybe in the 80s, 50-year-olds were like, the Golden Girls. We're not the Golden Girls, are we? Yeah, this has been unexpectedly the most like, what's the word I would even use? I was about to say like transformative, but that's not really true. Transformative, isn't it? It's like, I just wasn't thinking about being 50 ever in my life. And then here I am. And it's like, oh my God, I have a lot of time left. And I have a lot more I want to do. And actually, I feel like my point of view and what I have to offer the world is finally like in a place where I can think clearly and not be a stupid kid. You know what I mean? You know what I mean.
Hi there. So, this is really weird that we're getting this prompt. I literally just moved back in with my parents after being on my own for 2 years in St. Petersburg. And I'm back here in the Miami area. And it's been pretty emotional. I felt a little bit like I was letting myself down because I was giving up my independence, and I really enjoyed having that independence, and I let it go. And I also just felt like things were just starting to settle in my heart back in that last place. It was starting to really feel like home. And I couldn't believe that I was making the decision to leave it after I was starting to just get comfortable. And I'm somebody who's lived their entire life kind of like moving around in different places. And I was really looking forward to finding a place to call home. But I had to move back in with my parents because my job was a bit of a dead end. And, I knew that where I wasn't going to be my forever home anyways. I knew that I was going to have to find somewhere else to live at a certain point anyways. So, I know that the decision I made is the most logical and was what made more sense in terms of the bottom line, but it really hurt and it was really difficult. And I wish that, I wish that I could have had a little bit more agency and I wasn't forced to kind of be in this kind of a situation. But yeah, so thank you for the prompt.
So much has changed in the last 2 decades. I talk about this in my show right now. When I first moved to Nashville, Tennessee, right out of college. And this was about, early 2000s. about 20 years ago, 2 decades. My first house that I rented in Nashville with 2 other guys, the whole house was $400. So my rent was $130 when I first, my first like on my own rent. $130. Have I talked about this on the show already? I might have. And boy, the times have changed, aren't they? I think about, people who are my parents' age. We talk about how that generation was the last generation who could buy a home on a modest income. Like, you can't do that anymore. My parents bought their first home. They both had, I don't even know what they were doing for work when I was super young. They both went to community college and got 2-year degrees. So very, very like lower middle class kind of thing. They bought their first house, paid it off, and then bought a second house and paid that off. And on like not rich people incomes, and that is gone. My generation couldn't really quite do that with a home, but you could still get away with sort of floating around job to job. If you didn't like your job, you could quit and pretty easily get another one in a couple days. You could get an apartment on your own for $500 in Nashville, which is an incredibly expensive city now. Just 2 decades ago, I got an entire house for $400 and split it 3 ways, $130. I just am thinking about that because this person who was just talking about how they had to move in with their parents because now that is gone too. You can't really float around like that like you used to be able to. Got to lean on maybe family members. We're in a different world now. And it sucks. This is, I guess, maybe is this a uniquely American thing? It's a capitalist thing. Where's all the money going? I mean, we know where it's going. But yeah, it's a different world. If you want to be a free spirit, if you want to start over, if you want to clear the drawing board and start from scratch, it's trickier than it used to be, for sure.
Hello, I'm Ellis. When I was very little, I wanted to be a chicken farmer. I
Didn't we
loved
all?
the idea of having a lot of chickens and just being around the chickens. And as I grew up, it became clear to me that that was going to be a lot of hard work. And so for a long time, instead, I wanted to be maybe a writer. And gradually, as I went into my 20s, I realized that that was actually also a lot of work. And in fact, anything that was going to be worthwhile and deserved my desire was going to be a lot of hard work. And now I am in my 30s and I've reverted. Now my only desire is to have some chickens, just be around a lot of hens a lot of the time, enough that I could have eggs every day. And so, in a way, I'm back to back to where I started, which is not the worst place to be. Anyway, I hope you're having a wonderful day.
I had a friend who had chickens, and they went on vacation a couple times, and I would go watch their chickens. And I didn't watch them, but I gathered the eggs and just, put some food out or whatever. I don't remember what I did. I cared for chickens somehow. I've already erased it from my memory. But I do remember taking the eggs, and I mean, I make eggs for breakfast most mornings. And when I really think about what eggs are, of course it's a little weird, it's a little gross. But when I had to go get the eggs, like from the chickens, it was a lot more real to take then those things inside and crack them open and fry them up. What if all pets excreted some sort of breakfast food? How'd you feel about that?
So I remember growing up in southern Louisiana. I had an uncle, my uncle Vincent, who was imprisoned somewhere around 6 years old, I think. And I remember my family, they would always tell me that I was supposed to be a lawyer so that way I could get him out of prison. And interestingly enough, I wasn't interested in that. I was more interested in criminal psychology. I wanted to understand why people did the things that they did, and I wanted to understand what ways could I be useful in stopping that. I was really fascinated by stopping people from going to prison as opposed to necessarily focusing on getting them out. And it's interesting that while criminal psychology was that initial first sort of dream of what I wanted to do, it changed in that I realized instead I wanted to create spaces for people to hold empathy and to experience it. And this love of criminal psychology wound up turning into me focusing on healing and healing past trauma and how do we. So yeah, I think a lot about like that childhood dream about wanting to be a criminal psychologist and moving from that. And sometimes I think about revisiting it and what if I completely change my entire life and go back to it. But either way, big part of the work that I do centers healing past trauma.
I will admit, I've never gone to therapy. I have a lot of friends who have. And I've said this in the past where Generation X really didn't do that. That therapy never even came onto my radar until maybe a decade ago. And it's a lot more common now, and that's great. But I have friends who talk a lot about the idea of trauma. And I think about trauma a lot because I definitely have some. Time just did a thing with me. Enough time passed. I think my heart just untangled it. And but I do think about how the things that happen in those early years sort of affect your course forever. This person was a young child and maybe seeing their family in distress. So the young child was like, how can I fix this? And that sort of echoed through their life. And that's the case for me too, for sure. A lot of you guys, I know, have what we might say religious trauma, or from the deconstruction community, perhaps. I don't feel like I know a lot of you see me as like a voice in the deconstruction community. That's also a word I'd never heard before either until TikTok. Where was I going with that? You guys, I don't know. I'm a little scatterbrained today. Never mind. Look at this postcard. If you're on YouTube, you can see this right here. This was mailed to me. I revealed my P.O. box address, and now occasionally you guys send me a little something in my P.O. box. This is from, the name is covered up. Hold on. Let's see if I can peel this back. No, I can't. I'm sorry. The post office covered up your name. It says, "Hi, Kevin. I love sending art or postcards to people, and I feel like you're someone who would enjoy such. It's a rainy Mother's Day here, and I'm just hanging out with my cats. I'm looking forward to you when you bring your gayness back to Florida. We need it. Shamala hamala." Lovely little artwork on the postcard there. If you want to send me something, my address is P.O. Box 4, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45201. P.O. Box 4. That's it. The downtown post office in Cincinnati has its own zip code, 45201. This show is sloppy.
You are listening to the Call Kevin podcast.
Oh no, I wasn't ready. I was trying to find the next call. You guys, okay.
I went to college at Fort Lewis in Durango, tiny mountain town in South Colorado, beautiful. And my college boyfriend is somebody I always refer to as the one that got away. And years later, I went back to Durango, hoping to have a totally new experience with friends and enjoy the town and the restaurants and the shops and the mountains and the river. And instead, I was unexpectedly flushed with nostalgia and missing my college love. And all of these memories that I had not thought about in 15, 20 years came flooding back very strongly, very vividly. And it was hard to handle. Kind of put a damper on things. And my whole experience in Durango was not what I thought it was going to be the second time around. It wasn't adventuring and exploring and reminiscing about good college times. It was kind of a crude reminder that him and I didn't end up together. All of these memories. It was dark. It was dark.
Oh, what's that phrase? You can't go home again? Which also, where's that from and what does that mean? That's just what I thought about when that person was talking. You know, sometimes you do a thing and then it's not what you thought it was going to be. For example, I was just thinking, you know, on a different day, I probably would have pressed stop on this podcast and started over. I think I would take a long walk and cleared my head and then come back and try it again. But I can't do that today. I'm on a time limit. I have to leave here in a little bit to go do my show. And I've already told you, I started out this show, and as soon as I got into it, I'm like, my head's a little cloudy. I'm a little distracted feeling because I'm tired. And I've been tired for a long time. And it's good. This isn't a complaint. I'm just kind of being real with you guys because I'm like, this show is a little... You're probably listening like, you're like, Kevin, it's fine. But, you know, I'm not as tuned in as I'd like to be, and I'm thinking about other things. And it's all good. I'm just a little tired. I've been going nonstop for a long time. And even before, I've been going nonstop for a long time, my whole damn life. You know? And the last 4 years have been wild and a dream come true. And I can't believe all the things that have happened. But not all great. My longest relationship I've ever been in didn't survive. And we left each other. And then I went on the road some more, and I've been in hotel rooms like this all over the world for a long time. Living the dream, as they say, and I am. Everything is not just one thing. More than one thing can be true at once. I'm living the dream, and I'm super tired. And I have been thinking a lot about what do I want my life to be after 50? Starting a new era always. How many eras have I started? How many eras have you started in your life? And what do you want it to be? Do you feel like it's possible, or do you feel like it's impossible? Are you tired like I am? Do you have any hope? I have some hope. I have a lot of fears too, of course. The world is fucking bananas. I think this would be a good time to talk about these aren't sponsors. This is where sponsors would go. But instead, I'm shouting out our shit. If you'd like me to shout out your shit on a future episode of Call Kevin, send me a little blurb to read. Send it to my Shamalahamala address. It's info@shamalahamala.com. That email box is the least crowded. Established in 2010, Strings for Hope is a survivor-led organization that has dedicated the last decade to making a positive impact on the local Nashville community. By upcycling secondhand musical strings, we create job opportunities for individuals overcoming substance abuse disorder, domestic violence, and human trafficking. At Strings for Hope, we believe that economic opportunity is key to disrupting cycles of abuse and exploitation. Whether survivors seek long-term employment with us or view it as a stepping stone toward their goals, we provide a trauma-informed workplace with ongoing training, assistance, and dignified wages. Our products embody the spirit of Nashville, kind, creative, and deeply musical. We take pride in contributing to our community and transforming the lives of survivors within our city. Your support is essential to the continuation of our mission. We extend our heartfelt gratitude for choosing to stand with us. Thank you for your ongoing support. of Strings for Hope. And that is maybe you couldn't tell by the blurb I just read, but it's a jewelry company. They make really cool jewelry out of used guitar strings. These people used to work in the same building as me back in Nashville. They had these big barrels full of old guitar strings, just like wound up, these crazy looking masses of guitar strings. And they take them and they turn them into really beautiful things. And it's for a good cause. Go check out their website, stringsforhope.com, and maybe there's something that catches your eye. And it's for something that improves the life of others. The second thing I'm going to shout out is my little studio about to open up in my neighborhood of Over the Rhine in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's called Shamala Hamala. What is it? That's a great question. I'm still working out how to convey my vision. It's a thing that's been evolving, but I get the keys pretty soon and I'm going to start moving in. It's basically a place that is my personal art studio, but I want to do projects that inspire other people to create. We're all sort of, this is like a childhood thing too. I think people who maybe think they aren't creative or they don't have any talent, at some point when they were a kid, some adult was like, this isn't very good. You need to color within the lines, or you made this turkey purple and turkeys aren't purple. And it sort of echoes through your whole life. Someone told you weren't good, and so you believed it. I think that art is for everyone. Maybe not professional art. We love like genius and super crazy good talent. But also just doing something fun and creative is good for you. And I feel like we need simple things like that today for our own well-being. And also little creative fun projects I think bring people together. We need that as well too. So that's sort of my vision I'm working on at Shamala Hamala. It's going to be an art studio. There's going to be lots of projects that you can take part in from wherever you are in the world, even if you're not in my neighborhood. A lot of it's going to be online stuff that you can watch or maybe participate in some way. It's a work in progress. I'm still figuring it out, but I'm moving in pretty soon, and it's getting it off the ground is pretty expensive. So if that sounds interesting to you, there's little ways you can contribute on my website, shamalahamala.com. I'm not accepting any large donations. I just want little tiny ones. A community of people joining together to make something happen. So if you want to read more about it, or if you're just curious at all, head over to shamalahamala.com and check it out.
Hey, Kevin. I'm just sitting in my living room in Ontario, and I'm doing some cleaning up and listening to Bach and doing paperwork. And it's something about the tidiness of the music is hopefully inspiring tidiness in my thought processes. I've been listening to your podcast since the beginning, and it's really been interesting hearing people call in and where they're at, and this interesting, spontaneous community that's arisen. And I was thinking about, it's been a rough couple years for me, 2 or 3 years. So huge breakup in the middle of a pretty huge health crisis and on the heels of the pandemic. So a lot of things. Anyway, in the midst of a similar cleanup day, I dropped a cup on the floor. It's a favorite cup of mine from sort of 60s Japan. Love it. Smashed into a bunch of pieces. And in that moment, between sort of going from standing to like crouching down to pick up the pieces, I had this new thought that what if I didn't self-recriminate in the way that I've become used to? And there's something about this whole breakup and just the various things I've been through where I feel like I'm rebuilding a self from the bottom up. And I don't know if this is maybe like what later in life breakups kind of engender. You just have this chance to look at everything again. Anyway, I decided not to do that. And in the week since, I decided not to do that on a whole bunch of levels. And I hadn't realized how much that parental baggage had carried over into my life, that I'm this kind of inner dysfunctional parent that's punishing myself for the mistakes that I make, whether it's dropping something or a conversation that doesn't go well or missing an appointment, whatever.
Well, this show is sort of developing its own theme, isn't it? Man, when I decided that I had to leave my relationship a couple years ago, there were so many moments where I was like, am I really doing this? Am I really doing this? At this point in life, am I nuts? It's like you get to a place in life after enough time and you just sort of start to accept that that's your life. That's the end. Even if, it's not the end. It's like you've did it. You've done it. That's all there is. Now just sort of exist here until you die. Deciding to break up and move on and start over and build again might be to me one of the bravest things I've ever done for myself.
Hey Kevin, this is Mickey. So I woke up laughing from a dream the other night because in the dream I was asking people if Jesus was a cheerleader and he put his hair up, would it be a ponytail or a bun? And also, how high on his head would he wear it? I said it would be a high pony, but my best friend said it would be a messy bun on top of his head. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me this because it would not be a high pony or a messy bun. It would actually be like a lovely French twist with like a lot of volume. Patsy on Absolutely Fabulous, like that kind of like large beehive French twist.
Hey, Kevin, it's John. I'm a week late with this submission, so if you can't include it, no worries. But I have something I think many folks could use, maybe even you, because I think you're feeling something similar.
Let's hear it, John. My God.
Current mood for traveling and
Yes.
success. My dream was to be a writer of novels, but at first it was so intimidating. And I believed I could never write a full novel. Those things need to be like 100,000 words, and it just seemed so impossible.
Minus 75.
So in college, I realized that a movie script was just like 120 pages. So I pursued a career in film, hoping to sneak into writing that way. I wrote some scripts, and I did win some money in a script writing contest. I became successful in my film career and more confident, and eventually realized I probably could write a full novel, and so I pursued my original dream. I ended up publishing 3 short stories in some magazines, and then getting a real agent for a novel that I'd written. But ultimately, she couldn't find a publisher for that book, and I was then starting a family, and so I had to decide at that moment, do I want to provide for my family or pursue writing and potentially force us into some big dream struggle? The thing that helped me let go of that was that I'd already accomplished my dream. I'd published some short stories, I'd won some money, I had an agent that believed in me, even if only for a little while. Why we push our dream goalposts continuously to the point where we could never really fully reach them, it's so silly to me. If we do have some success in our lives, in our dreams, there isn't some rule that says it must remain that way forever or it doesn't count. When I started writing, I just wanted to hear someone say it was worthy, and I got that. Therefore, I should be happy and proud, and I am. I don't have to be long-lasting for it to count. It doesn't have to go on until it kills me.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. We're so ambition focused. And yeah, it's like it's never enough, is it? Until it is. And that, it's a different game from when you're young and when you're old. And maybe somewhere in between. Because I feel that way. Like all the things that are happening now, and I just told you a while ago how tired I am. even though my quote dreams have come true, the dreams I had when I was 20, I'm traveling the world, doing shows, staying in nice hotels, making a decent amount of money for the first time in my life with art. What? And I'm grateful and it's amazing. And it happened. Like right now, and this is like, if I'm just kind of shooting from the hip and being honest, another part of my Shamala Hamala studio vision is just for me. Like, yeah, I want to do some cool projects that are community focused, which I like that sort of thing, and that's important to me. But really, at this point in my life, I just want to walk over to my studio and make some cool art and maybe put it for sale in my little gift shop and help other people make art. I just want to sleep and feel good and be thankful for what I have today and maybe help other people get to that place too. And that's enough, man. And woman and others.
Hi, Kevin. This is Lee. I've called you before, but you
Lee,
asked if there was a moment
why did that
when
sound
we realized
accusatory?
we knew who we were. And I would say that happened to me when I was 58. I'm 69 now. So you have plenty of time still to realize who you are,
Thank
and
God.
everybody really does. But I think I didn't understand who I was. I was kind of oblivious and I kind of pushed and overcompensated and overachieved. Like I published 100 articles and books. Then I got my CPA for fun. I got during
For
my
fun.
life, I got certified as a cabinet maker. I cared for a spouse with Parkinson's disease. I raised kids, but all through that time, I. I was always in love and attracted to gay men, always, and
Me too.
my fantasies were about gay men as well. And one day I ordered online a binder, a breast chest binder, and put it on and realized that I wasn't just a poorly functioning female, but really a masculine person. Um, in those years since then, I quit my job. I got top surgery. My husband, who was ill, passed away. Um, now I teach wood shop to people who, in a kind of queer friendly environment, to people who want to learn how to make furniture. And my whole life is really different. And I don't think I really had a clue that that's what's going on in my head my whole life up until that moment. So anyway, shamala hamala to you, and thanks a lot. I appreciate you.
Lee, transforming 69 years old. We just need to listen to you guys today. You have more to say than I do. I was moved by that, Lee. Thank you for sharing that. That was a lot of things. You're still doing it.
When I was younger, I wanted to be an artist and live off of art that I made and sell it and just illustrate books and just make a living off of creating. I entered into art shows and art contests when I was little and would always be so proud when I would get ribbons and my teachers would tell me how creative I was, and I was just really proud of it. And I remember two things. The first time when I was coming home from first grade and I had won an art award and told my dad that I want to be an artist when I grew up. And he said, good luck making money because artists only make money when they're dead. And then a second time when I was in high school, my teacher had sent a letter home saying she was really proud of me and how much my art had developed over the years and that she hoped I would continue with art in my future, to which my dad replied that art wasn't going to help my D plus in algebra. and that kind of killed my dream. And I wanted to go into illustration in college, but I decided to go into journalism because I was on the paper in school, which I did not go into journalism. I'm an introvert and I don't like talking to people. So getting a degree in journalism was a big old waste of time. But now I'm a librarian, and specifically a children's librarian, and I teach art classes at my library with kids and their families, and I make art for our library and the decorations and all kinds of different creative outlets. So I kind of did end up getting paid to do art and being an artist. So joke's on him.
Oh, I'm not saying anything else this entire episode. It's all you guys.
When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a massage therapist. I thought it was so cool to be able to help people, make people feel better. I did everything I could to kind of learn about that, and it was just so exciting. And now I dissect human corpses. I'm an autopsy technician. I don't really know where the change happened at what point. I just kind of called the coroner's office one day, said, "Hey, you need someone to cut up your corpses?"
What?
They said, "Yeah."
No, they didn't.
So started out as an intern, and so the story goes. It's fun. I'm not a massage therapist though.
What? Oh my God.
And I'm totally fine with that. It's great.
Why did you say I'm not a massage therapist at the end? We know. You just said you. That call was bananas. You wanted to be a massage therapist, but that's not what you really wanted, is it? You got what you wanted. Okay. All right. Okay.
Hello, Kevin. My name is Wanda. I'm 46 years old. If I were to say that I had dreams, those dreams were kind of more in alignment with things like being a pirate, like in the Goonies, or stumbling into some Narnia-like place and having adventures. And in some way, those still are my dreams. As most people raised in the 80s and 90s, I had to have a career and a pathway. So I decided veterinary medicine because I've always liked animals more than people. But
Same.
I discovered later in my college career that wanting a thing and obtaining a thing are very different. And you can work all you want sometimes, but sometimes hard work just brings more hard work because you need things like economic resources and connections, and I didn't have those, and I really still don't have those things. So since I sucked at math and it was apparent that I couldn't afford to spend my summer doing internships that were unpaid, I had to work and hustle. I taught high school science, which wasn't my dream, and for the past 7 years I've worked at a preschool and been a director, and managing people is not my dream either because I think people should manage themselves. So if I had a dream now, I think it would be just to, have that Narnia-like sense of adventure, but do the things I prefer to do, like getting lost in the woods and hiking around and getting my feet wet, growing my
Chickens.
flowers,
Chickens.
and maybe connecting with people more than I do. But that's really hard to find. So I do appreciate everything that you do, though, because I get it. So thank you for this opportunity. Bye.
If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try again.
Hi, Kevin. One time I ate so much weed edible that I was too high to walk or see, so I just had to sit outside for several hours. And eventually I vomited all over the ground. And because I still couldn't move, I just had to sit there and watch as a feral raccoon came up and ate my vomit.
Oh.
Yep, those were the days of undergraduate college. I hope I made you laugh and have a good one. Shamala hamala.
Not so much laugh as reminisce, because the first time I ever did a show here in Portland, this is my fourth time here. So like 4 years ago, right across the street from my hotel, there was a dispensary. And I had not seen that before, really. I've lived in Tennessee for a long time. We don't have those. So I went across the street and I bought some marijuana gummies. And I didn't really think about like how strong they were. I mean, I know now you can like look at the package and see how many grams of the high stuff, isn't it? And I went back to my hotel room. I had the night off. It was the night before my show. And there was only like one big gummy in there and I ate the whole thing. I thought that's what you were supposed to do. I realize now it was like 4 servings you're supposed to cut up. And I got so high that now I'm not prone to getting paranoid or whatever. Like I actually really enjoy being super, super high, but I was so high that I could not move. And I was laying on my hotel bed. I was so paralyzed. And I remember there was a painting on the wall and my eyes were just sort of focused on this painting and I could not move. It felt like for like 6 hours. It was probably for like 45 minutes in real life. But it was so unpleasant because I couldn't get up. And I was just like, oh my God, move, get up, just sit up. And I couldn't. And it seemed like it went on forever and it was awful. Anyway, don't get too high, kids.
So when I was little, I was raised in an evangelical church, and we were around a lot of missionaries. And I decided I was going to be a missionary. And then later on, I decided I was going to be an attorney. And then I got older, and I'm not sure. I didn't think I was going to really live beyond maybe 25. And then when I was 21, I stopped drinking. I'd been drinking since I was 15. And I met a man. I got religious again and became a stay-at-home mom. And I was going to be like the homeschool mom, and I was going to raise my kids to be good little evangelical Christians. And I got them dedicated, which sounds, when I describe it to people, they don't, even when I say it out loud, it makes zero sense. Anyway, over time, with the economy collapsing in 2009, we ended up housing crisis issues, food insecurity, housing insecurity, had to go back to school. My husband was laid off. He became more and more abusive and controlling. And so I ended up divorced with 50-50 custody of 5 kids. And I became a paralegal through school. And I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Hi, Kevin. Shamala Hamala. The moment I knew myself is kind of happening for me right now, actually. I'm 39. So much of my identity since I was a teen was wrapped up in my religious upbringing and what we referred to as identity in Christ. Over the last 5 years or so, a lot has happened to me that makes me realize I never actually claimed my religion for myself. It was more of a security blanket rather than a personal faith walk. I think that became real for me when I became a mom and realized I don't want my son to be traumatized or force-fed religion the way that I was. I just want to be a good person, and I want him to be a good person. So now my goal in life is just to be a good person and be good to others and just be happy. We only get so much time on this earth, so let's treat others well and do what makes us and the people around us feel happy and loved. That's all. Thanks.
Amen to that.
Hi. I guess the story I want to tell is about a time that I returned to a place. I live in a town called Brunswick in Maine, and years ago, this was the town that I lived in when I was going through active addiction on opiates from a pill that I got prescribed from a doctor that I didn't educate myself on before I started taking it. And fast forward to a year later when I found out he was writing prescriptions for Oxycontin to his patients for $100 cash and got caught, I lost my prescription. And then everything went to hell after that. So after that, anytime I went through Brunswick, because I did move out of the town eventually, I'd get panic attacks and anxiety attacks. I ended up moving up north a couple hours away up near Bar Harbor and lived there for about 8 years. And then COVID happened and my daughter lives in Brunswick and I didn't want the kids to have to go to daycare. She's a single mom. So I packed up my stuff and moved down here. And it was so different this time because I've done a lot of healing and now this town empowers me instead of scares me. And May, I will celebrate 9 years of being clean off of opiates. And I'm pretty excited and pretty proud. Also, I love your stories. I think you're amazing and hope to see you in Boston someday. Thank you.
It was the 90s.
Thanks for sharing that with us. And thanks everyone else for sharing that with us, those stories and thoughts this week. If you would like to tell us something, ask a question, or tell us a story, do it at kevinjamesthornton.com. Go check it out. Have a great week, guys. Bye.
It was the 90s.